There are countless winds blowing in this world, yet no feather knows where the breeze will take it. Here begins the story of a man who traveled the farthest, simply by letting the wind carry him. He is waiting for someone, or perhaps he is simply waiting for the next breeze to enter his life. Like that box of chocolates in his hand, you never know what life has in store until you open it. Now, listen closely to the words falling from his lips. This is the magical record of a man who was called a fool, yet lived more wisely than anyone else in the world. Forrest's start was a bit slower and heavier than others. The iron braces bound his legs, but his mother always said, "There's an awful lot you can tell about a person by their shoes. Meeting an angel amidst the coldness of the world is a miracle." To Forrest, Jenny was an angel with the most beautiful voice. From that day on, they were like peas and carrots. Jenny shouted, "Run, Forrest, run!" That cry became a spell that shattered the iron braces binding his legs. He became free, running faster than the wind itself. The purity of looking only forward. That is what made him a college student and a football hero. He was just running, but the world began to chase after him. A pure soul stands tall even before authority. Isn't he charming? Telling the President of the United States that he simply drank too many Dr. Peppers. College years passed, and Forrest answered the call of his country. But in his heart, there was only one priority: Jenny's happiness wherever she might be. Just like Jenny on the school bus, this time it was Bubba who shared his seat. This kind soul, who knew everything about shrimping, promised to be Forrest's best friend for life. Vietnam, where the rain came from every direction. There, Forrest met Lil Teen Dan, a man who believed in destiny, a meeting between a soldier who didn't fear death and one who loved life. On the day the sky burned, there was only one thing Forrest could do. Just like Jenny said, he had to run through the fire to save his brothers. The last words of his dearest friend were, "I want to go home." Forrest realized for the first time that there are sorrows that running alone cannot fix. Lil Teen Dan believed his honorable death was stolen. But Forrest simply began to learn ping pong, staying by the side of a wounded soul and hitting the ball back and forth. The simple rule: never take your eye off the ball. With that one rule, Forrest surprised the world again. He became a symbol of peace through the click-clack of a paddle. A drunken Lieutenant Dan mocked God, but Forrest spoke of his promise to become a shrimp boat captain, a promise made to Bubba that he intended to keep, even while standing shoulder to shoulder with icons of the era. Forrest remains unshaken. His mind was only filled with thoughts of home, shrimp, and his mama. The thousands in the crowd vanished. Only their names echoed across the plaza as they reunited in the water. But Jenny had to leave to find her own path once more. Forrest just called because he couldn't sleep, but history shifted once again. At this point, he truly is the unintentional engine of history, isn't he? People laughed and called him a fool, but he will soon prove that a fool who keeps his promise is far greater than a clever man who breaks one. A sailor with no legs and a captain with no wits. This strange duo on the Jenny heads out to sea. But at first, the ocean gave them nothing but old boots. In the middle of the storm, Lieutenant Dan fought with God, while Forrest held the wheel. When every other boat sank, only the Jenny survived the gale. Blessings followed the trial. The Bubba Gump Shrimp Company became an immense success, and Forrest became a billionaire. Lieutenant Dan finally made his peace with God. At the peak of his success, all Forrest wanted was Jenny. She returned, and Forrest experienced the happiest time of his life. But a sad shadow still lingered in her eyes. Death is just a part of life. Mama taught Forrest how to accept life until her very last breath. leaving him with a final mission. You have to figure out your own destiny. He isn't a fool who doesn't know love. He knows it so well it hurts. In the empty space Jenny left behind, a giant hole opened in Forrest's heart. That day, Forrest made a decision. He just felt like running. Was it to forget the sadness, or to find the destiny his mama spoke of? Once, twice, 3 times. As he crossed the continent, people began to gather behind him. They looked to him for a message of hope in a complicated world. The world wants a grand reason, but Forrest was just running. For a man running to leave the past behind, a reason was an unnecessary luxury. Everywhere he goes, he starts a trend and changes the world without even caring. He is simply running to put the past in the rearview mirror. 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours. He had run enough. Has the hole in his heart finally started to fill? He heads back home. A single letter leads him to Savannah. The reason he sat on that bench and told his story was all to go and see the only woman he ever loved. There was no need to wait for a bus. She was just a few blocks away. Forrest's heart begins to race once again with the promise of reunion. He has finally reached this door after so many detours. He hopes with all his heart that the sweetest piece of life's chocolate box is waiting inside. Jenny had changed. She was no longer a wandering girl, but a mother of a young child, living a quiet life in a sun-drenched apartment. The boy's name was Forrest. Forrest Gump, Jr. Tears well up in Forrest's eyes as he looks at the mirror image of his own childhood. The thing Forrest feared most. He worried the boy might struggle like he did. But Jenny says he's the smartest in his class. In that moment, his burdens melt away. Happiness always seems to come with a trial. Jenny was sick, and her time was running out, but she chose to spend those final days where it all began. All the connections of his life gathered in one place. Forrest finally became the husband of the woman he loved, and Lieutenant Dan found his peace with new legs. Forrest describes the most beautiful sights he has ever seen: Vietnam stars and desert sunsets. Jenny whispers softly, "I wish I could have been there with you." The angel has returned to heaven. Forrest is left alone, but he is no longer the lonely fool of the past. He has a son to protect and a lifetime of stories to share. Just as his mama did for him, Forrest pours all his love into his son. The cycle of life is unfolding right here on this small dining table every single morning. The bus carrying his son drives away. Forrest will sit there and wait until his son returns, just as he has patiently endured the long road of his own life. Forrest now knows that Jenny is always by his side, that the rustling of the leaves in the wind is her whisper, guiding him through the quiet days. We all carry our own burdens. But if that burden is for the sake of love, it is no longer a weight. It becomes the very wings that lift us. We don't know if life is a fixed destiny or if we're all just floating around, accidental-like on a breeze. Maybe it's both. The important thing is to keep moving. Forrest Gump's story tells us it's okay if you aren't the smartest, and it's okay to be a little slow. Only pure sincerity can move hearts and change the world. What is in your box of chocolates? Whatever it is, do not be afraid. It will be the very flavor that makes your life the most beautiful thing you own. To love, to keep a promise, and to never stop running toward the light. This simple truth is the only magic that can save us in this harsh world. Now, it is your turn. Catch your own breeze and begin your own great journey. Goodbye, Forrest. Goodbye, our beautiful, unpredictable lives.